Meet me. Welcome back, boys, for HWAYOUNG Round 2. So, 2 days ago, I released my thoughts on the HWAYOUNG nerfs, and I was overwhelmed with happiness, but I was just kind of reading it on the fly, right? It wasn't very structured. I was just basically giving my on-the-fly thoughts about it. But you guys were really passionate about that video. It has more comments than probably like my last 20 videos combined. Everyone wants to chime in on the HWAYOUNG nerfs. And it also has probably one of the lowest like rates of my videos. Because, I mean, that doesn't mean anything, but my videos tend to have high like rates because if you didn't like me, you wouldn't be subscribed, right? But I pissed off, based on the numbers, at least 20% of you guys. So 20% of you guys thought I was completely off base, that HWAYOUNG doesn't need a nerf, that this is a disaster. So let's talk about it, and I'm going to try to convince you why I'm right. And, you know, maybe it won't work, but I did want to do it in a way where I can kind of really give you my thoughts on this in a logical manner, and you can really see why I thought she needed to be nerfed beyond just the fact that I don't like her and I'm biased, which is also true. I'm not disputing that. I freaking hate this skank. But at the same time, it's not just emotional. There's reasons I don't like her. So what I did was I went through the comments, and guys, I actually do look at your comments. I actually usually do it when I'm taking a dump, though, so I don't know if that makes you feel better or worse about it. But if I were respond to your comment, I was probably dropping a massive descending blade of my own. But yeah, you didn't need to know that, but I wanted to share it anyway. But I've basically summed up the key 5 points made by the people who disagree with me, and we're going to talk about them individually. So, number one, which I think is the stupidest one, is that she wasn't broken anyway, low, learn to adapt. That she was fine. And we'll talk about that. Number two was she was a free-to-play friendly hero, unnecessary evil to deal with whales. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Number three is she wasn't the only broken hero. Why did it have to be HWAYOUNG? Reasonable point. We'll discuss that. And number four, that the nerfs went a little bit overboard and that she didn't need to be nerfed so hard. Okay, we'll talk about that too. And I think that we'll leave it at that, actually. So some special mentions I don't think are as important. We'll kind of cover that at the end as like a topic 5. And that was, you know, people got screwed over if they invested a lot into Uberius too. People who feel bad about investing in Yulha, now they feel that's a waste. And also some people just thought that the timing of the nerfs wasn't very nice, especially with the selector and stuff. So we'll very quickly gloss over those. But I think those first 4 are the key points. So let's get right into it. All right, so topic number 1, and I honestly think this is just a ridiculous argument, but we're going to talk about it anyway, and it's the idea that HWAYOUNG shouldn't have been nerfed because she wasn't broken at all. Lol, learn to adapt. So we're going to look at some actual comments on my last video here, and I'm not going to show their names, and it doesn't matter who they are, and this isn't a personal attack on you guys, and if you are the ones who made this comment, you are not alone. I just picked 2 random ones, but there were a bunch of comments like this. But my goal is to kind of explain to you why you're wrong. But let's just read some of these for fun. Okay, so, but by now, he wrote, but by now, every at least somewhat decent RTA player has adapted to have more than enough answers to HWA. The only people I feel still having trouble playing against her are Challenger and below rank. So if you're above Challenger and you struggle with HWAYOUNG, you're a moron. Players who get outgeared and or don't know how to draft properly. Cleave totally shits on HWA. Well, I mean, yeah, that's true for the most part. And so does Opsig, Shu, Kisei, J. Kisei, Flitica, Ram, S10A, Yulha, DJB, I mean, kind of make this list for any hero in the game, but okay. I mean, some of those are correct. What about this other one? Hard disagree. Just based on the numbers, she didn't need a nerf. She has a sub 50%. 50% what? I'm assuming pick rate. I barely see her in RTA, and when I do, I never lose. This guy's a pro. Now I am one person, but I use units everyone has access to deal with her. And if my scrub self can deal with her, then it's not that bad. Increasing her S3 cooldown and reducing her CR push on S1 would have been good enough. Okay, the ladder hop that's fine. He's just proposing alternative nerfs or whatever. Okay, so yeah, I mean there are people out there who think that HWAYOUNG in her current form was fine, and that anyone who thought otherwise is just a complainer who doesn't know how to draft. And I guess I'm one of them. I mean, I am pretty washed up. I play a lot more Lost Ark than E7 nowadays. So I think we have to consult people who are better than me. So why don't we go to the E7WC contestants and we'll just go to the tape because we should be able to trust them, right? Let's test it out. So let's look at actual good players who know what they're doing. So how am I going to do that? So I've opened up, we can't watch every single match, right? But I've opened up 4 tests. We have day 1 of main matches, day 2 of main matches, day 3 of main matches, and the finals. So a lot of the comments said, unless you're challenger and below, nobody has problems with HWAYOUNG. If you can't deal with HWAYOUNG, you're just bad. You need to learn how to adapt. HWAYOUNG is easy to deal with. Well, since that's the case, who's going to be able to show us do that better than the top players in the world competing in the E7WC? So let's find out how actual good players dealt with HWAYOUNG. Match 1, let's see. Well, this guy's solution was pre-ban her. Well, for some hero that's so easy to adapt to, it's really weird that you would pre-ban it, but I guess Dam's just a scrub. Well, let's look at Jintae. He's pretty good, right? He's pretty good. Well, they didn't pre-ban it, but it's literally the first pick. He picked a non-ML fire RGB unit as a first pick. Interesting. All right, well, it's probably just a fluke. He's probably just trolling. What about match 3? Oh, immediate pre-ban. Why don't these trash bag players know how to adapt to HWAYOUNG? Weird. What about match 4? Oh, she didn't get pre-banned, but there you go. She wasn't the first pick, but she was the first pick for the second player. Either way, she's on the top. But you know what? This is just day 1. These guys are trash bags, right? Day 1 scroll. Let's go to day 2. This is where the real animals come in. And what happens here? Oh, well, no, she's pre-banned. That's weird. Huh. These top players shouldn't be struggling with HWAYOUNG. What about the second one? Pre-banned. Huh, weird. What about here? Not pre-banned, but literally the first pick. Okay. What about the losers round? Alright, so there we go. We get to see it right in the middle of picking it. First pick. Alright, what about day 3? No. Oh, no, she's pre-banned. All right, what about Dam and DYR? How did they deal with it? Well, they pre-banned it immediately. What about round 3? Pre-banned immediately. Okay, what about the finals? Because all these guys are scrubs. I mean, they're not even in the finals. Let's see how the finals people deal with her. All right, pre-banned. What about the loser finals? Immediate first pick. Okay. All right, what about the grand finals? Pre-banned. Interesting. So I guess we learned how top players adapted to HWAYOUNG, right? It's to either immediately ban her or immediately first pick her. I mean, am I missing something, or does she sound not that easy to adapt to if all the top players in the world basically seem to have the exact same response to her? Either ban her or first pick her. To me, that sounds like a recipe for being broken, right? Because no one wants to deal with this slut. Either you don't want to fight her at all, or you want to have her first. That basically seems to be the conclusion from looking at how the last 4 days of the E7WC panned out, right? So based on that, like even if you don't trust me, can we all agree that these guys are really good, have cracked gear, and know what they're doing? These are not quote-unquote challenger or below scrubs that are struggling with Hwayong. These are the best players in the world, and all of them have very high pick rates for Hwayong. Like you could even see it here. Like let's look at some of these other players. Ravi, Hwayong, and again all these broken units. And this is like a perfect thing to look at. This is like the only guy who doesn't seem to want to play Hwayong. Maybe he just pre-bans it every time, so that's probably what it is. Everyone else, she's very high on the pick chart. So yeah, I mean, this argument that top players don't struggle with Hwayong and think she's easy to deal with, it's clearly nonsense. It's clearly objectively wrong just by watching these matches, right? So yeah, let's get off the tape and go on. I think I've made my point here. Alright, so now that we've learned how the pros quote-unquote adapted to Hwayong, let's really quickly summarize why I personally think she's broken. And the crux of it is that she was a no-compromises unit. She, much like Ravi, there's very little downside to picking her, you know, except like against Cleave. Like Ravi's even better in that sense because she works in both Standard and Cleave. Well, against Standard and Cleave. But let's talk about Hwayong. So she was originally intended as an answer to high HP bruiser units or knights and to one-shot them. Fine, let's assume that that's her role. What about medium tank units, like 14, 15k HP units? Well, actually, she still killed those. Alright, well, what about low HP units, like 10k HP, 9k HP? Well, yeah, actually, she still killed those too in one hit. Actually, for those, she didn't even need to S3. Just kick them with the S1 with Uberius, something like a Rylet. They just die instantly. Okay, I've actually kicked someone with the S1 like an Ravi for 24k before with her S1 with Death Break. That's how strong this thing hits. So she kills everything. What if you have evasion now? No, actually the way your kit works, that doesn't help. You kick them, they die. Okay, what if they're opposite element? Well, outside of RTA, still die. You can use Hwayong against Rems and Guild Wars to guarantee S3 on a miss. If your Hwayong's well geared and they have no mitigation, she'll die. She'll die. So yeah, so basically she could kill whatever she wants, and because of the way her kit works, elemental damage misses doesn't really matter all that much, particularly outside of RTA, so she kind of just worked against literally everything. What's the other core problem with her that other one-shot heroes have that she doesn't? A lot of people like her because she's easy to build. Why is she easy to build? It's because other one-shot heroes are much harder to build. Like, arguably, Strays is a more reliable one-shotter than Hwayong, except he's not. Why? Because, really, to have him one-shot stuff, it means you're going to get one-shotted too if they look at him, right? That's the general theme of most one-shot heroes, like Watcher, Shuri, stuff like that. Yeah, they could kill you, but they also die the instant you look at them. So it's always a dance. Like, you want them to be able to one-shot, but if you want to build them to be able to take a hit, it's hard. You got to build HP, defense, attack, crit chance, crit damage, speed if you want them to take a turn, and speed becomes valuable because you can't be too slow, and squishy because you'll get one-shotted. What's up wrong with Hwayong? You don't need crit chance or crit damage, and you guys all know that those are kind of expensive stats. So basically you get 85% crit and like whatever, 200 plus crit damage that you could just funnel into speed and HP and defense. And yeah, no one, like, even people with garbage gear can build 7k attack Hwayongs at like 220 plus speed, and that's nowhere close to her cap of potential. You should see some of the whale Hwayongs out there, you know, like 7k attack, 1500 defense or more, 15k HP, 250 plus, if not 260, 270 speed. Even on a low investment, she was super strong. And people said that's why she's good, but it also points to her being unbelievably busted, right? That she could all do these things, even on garbage gear. Like, really all you needed was for your right side to be the correct main stat and have some speed on it, and she was still a super threat. On top of that, the other heroes that I mentioned that have survivability problems, even if you have crappy health and defense, basically a built-in proof against crit damage units, 30% crit damage mitigation, and this barrier was absurd and it scaled on her attack. If you versed her in RTA, you've seen many times, especially early in the match before Frenzy kicks in, where you try to remove, like you hit HWAYOUNG with like an A-Ravi, and A-Ravi is not a weak unit, literally doesn't get through the barrier. Literally doesn't get through the barrier. So it's hard to stop her from doing future S3s because she's actually tough to kill. And something that I started finding later on were people that were building OpSig resistant HWAYOUNGs, because actually without attack buff, it's not that easy to kill HWAYOUNG because of this damage reduction. I've seen HWAYOUNGs survive my OpSig's S2. Now my OpSig is not cracked, and with attack buff she's guaranteed to kill a HWAYOUNG, but she's not horrendous. She's not like a super god tier 1. Like I'm sure a super god tier 1 could consistently kill even high HP HWAYOUNGs. Where is my OpSig? This is my OpSig. This cannot reliably kill some of the HWAYOUNGs out there. It's not terrible. It's not terrible. And honestly, the speed is so slow that most HWAYOUNGs would outspeed it anyway. So HWAYOUNG is just very problematic because she's super easy to build. She doesn't really have any downsides. She kills stuff that she wasn't intended to kill. Low HP, medium HP, high HP units, they all die to her. She doesn't care about evasion. She cares less about opposite element than other heroes because the misses matter a lot less. She's tanky. That's the crux of why I considered her broken. She was just too good at everything. It's fine to be good at one or two things. When you're good at everything, that's when it becomes a problem, at least from my perspective. So I don't want to belabor it. We could talk even more about this, but let's just move on to the next topic. All right, so luckily that was the longest topic, but let's talk about the other ones. So topic number 2. She was a free-to-play friendly hero to deal with whales, or more specifically, she was a more accessible way to deal with a Ravi, which is true. So let's talk about this for a little bit. Number one, I don't like when people say that. She's really not that free-to-play friendly. She's still a Nat 5, where if she's off banner, there's literally next to no chance you're going to get her. Like right now, there was a selector for her, but if you didn't have that selector and you didn't have HWAYOUNG, until her next banner comes, what were your real odds of getting her? Like, I actually don't think limiteds and regular RGBs are all that different. Like, yeah, if you miss a limited, you have to wait a year. But with how many heroes are out now, it's basically the same thing for an off-banner unit. But whatever, let's assume that she was easy to get. The problem with this argument is that the whales can also use her, guys. Like, that's a key sign that's broken because, listen, like, your piddly HWAYOUNG on F2P gear that can compete with whales, that's fine, but those whales have her too. At triple S, with 70 plus gear score gear in every slot. Those HWAYOUNGs are really scary. No one cares about your 220 speed, 10k HP, 7k attack HWAYOUNG. Okay? I mean, I'm glad that it works, and it does work, but the super scary ones, the ones that are like 7,500 attack with 1,500 defense, 15k HP, and 250 speed, those are the ones where there's really no way to deal with it. And again, games have to be if Smogate's trying to make this a competitive game, they have to balance it at the top. And clearly they're trying to make it a competitive game, because if they're not, why is this E7WC thing even a thing? Why are they paying all these people to host that tournament? Why are they trying to get commentators? They clearly want it to be competitive, and that's exactly why the nerfs are happening. This hero made balancing impossible. And I actually want to go to a comment, and this time I am going to name drop who did the comment, because I don't know who this guy is, but he always comments on my videos, and I love this guy. So if you see this video, just say that I appreciate your comments, man. Even if I don't agree with them, they're always really well thought out. But let me just quote him here. To be honest, the real mark of how much she warped the game was the RTA changes. 30% DR to strong element on defense, nerfing attack scaling and barriers were all aimed at HWAYOUNG. I think that's a great point, and he's completely right. This hero was so broken that she literally changed the game. She literally had to change the RTA rules because of how strong she was. So Yeah, I guess she was an F2P friendly unit because she was so good that no matter what trash gear you put on her, she could delete everything in the game and still not die instantly doing it. So you're right, it was an F2P friendly unit, but only because she was disastrously busted. Because if anyone can use her and kill everything, doesn't that mean it's a pretty good sign that it's busted? Like, am I missing something here? So yeah. So ultimately, I'm going to say you guys are right. It wasn't F2P friendly. Well, by your definition of F2P friendly, it was a good way to deal with people much stronger, but that was just a sign that this hero is ridiculously broken. Because if we're saying all easily built heroes that delete everything is good, then why don't we just make a specialty change hero with 200 base speed that one-shots everything on the other team? Would that be good then because everyone has it and it could kill everything? No, of course not. All right, so topic number 3. She wasn't the only broken hero. Why HWAYOUNG? Well, this one I have no argument against. Everyone who thinks this, you're right. She's not the only broken hero. And you know what? A lot of the comments saying that we needed her to deal with a Ravi, she was a necessary evil. I'm fully on board with nerfing a Ravi next. Because there were some comments like people saying like you're a bruiser player, you just want to protect your A-Ravi. I don't give a shit about A-Ravi. Guys, like, people think like whales are trying to protect this hero. The whales literally don't care. Look at my hero journal. You think I care what heroes are strong? You think I'm I mean, look at what I'm missing. These things, I don't even know what they are. I don't care about. I don't care about Glenn. Blood Moon Haste is the only... Like, I have every hero. I don't care what's nerfed and what's not. I can build it, right? So I'm not trying to protect any hero. I don't want heroes to exist that I think are bad for the game, which I think HWAYOUNG qualifies. So yes, C. Lilius, A. Ravi. I mean, C. Lilius I think is not too hard to deal with now, but, you know, arguably she's a very safe first pick, so probably still busted. A. Ravi is definitely still busted, but again, Smallgate has all the numbers. So yeah, I think what Smallgate was doing a test run, and I think they explicitly stated somewhere that they're going to continue looking at rebalancing efforts, so this might be a first wave, and this might be a test to see how the community reacts. And unfortunately, the community, a lot of us, are reacting very negatively and scaring the shit out of Smallgate, so who knows? Maybe they'll be too scared to do more stuff like this in the future. But, yeah, I mean, I think it was a good idea, like maybe not like morally or whatever, but financially, like they'd rather nerf the RGB first because nerfing MLs is very touchy, right? Because RGBs are much easier to get than MLs. When MLs are out, the real cost of an ML is like 6 Mystic packs, right? It's like $600 approximately. So for the people who actually did that, and a lot of people do that to get their MLs, it's a gotcha game. If they nerf something like a Ravi and they bought it under the idea that they needed that, then they basically just robbed people of 600. So they might have to do it anyway, but I'm saying it's a lot touchier than nerfing an RGB. So I think that's why they started HWAYOUNG. They're going to gauge how much backlash they're going to get from it before they look at the MLs, but I do think they're looking at the MLs. But I am in full support of nerfing other heroes. I think for them, HWAYOUNG was a good target because she was clearly the most busted unit. A lot of players were complaining about her, and she's also an RGB, and I think they're a lot more scared of nerfing MLs than RGBs. Is that right? Is that fair? No, it's not right or fair, but they're a business. They're trying to make money. It is what it is. I'm just trying to explain the logic. I'm not saying it's right. But in terms of other units need nerfs as well, I fully agree with you guys, but I'm just trying to give some context as to why I think they picked HWAYOUNG to go first, and I do think she was the most broken one out of the broken ones. A. Ravi, she's toxic as hell, but I personally think she's easier to deal with than HWAYOUNG. Maybe other people will disagree unless you're like a 100% cleaver or something. But in terms of bruiser context, I think HWAYOUNG was a lot more toxic. But overall, I agree with most of these comments there. And topic number 4, this is a fun one, is a lot of people said, yes, she needed to be nerfed. but the nerfs went overboard. Maybe. But I think that depends on her new form and whether or not they're going to bump her multis enough to keep her overall damage against high HP targets similar. So there were two things. We kind of covered this before. Well, first let's start with this. I think they might have gone a little overboard with her nerfs because I'm damn sure that they don't want to nerf her again. So what's the safer play to do? Under nerf and have to nerf again and go through all this bullshit again? Or over nerf and buff later? Because no one ever complains about buffs, right? Or most people don't complain about buffs. So if they find that she's underperforming, they'll just release another balance patch and say, after evaluating, it seems she's underperforming and we did a little bit too much. We're going to give her a little push and everything will be fine. No one's going to care. If they nerfed her twice in a row, people would, crap their pants and, go to their headquarters with pitchforks. They don't want to do that. So I think for them, it was a safer play to go overboard. But let's talk about the actual nerfs and if they are overboard. So I think from my perspective, there were two things that they could have targeted for the nerf. So what I don't think they should have nerfed was her ability to deal with high HP bruisers. And my understanding of the notes is that she still does that, right? Because they are increasing the damage of her S1, but reducing the amount of the extra tick damage because that thing hits evasion units. So as long as they do that, I think that makes sense. But I think that part shouldn't have been touched. She should still be able to one-shot knights with attack buff. I think that was fine. What needed to be nerfed was either her ability to kill units that aren't her intended target, low HP offensive units, or her survivability. So it looks like they nerfed her ability to hit evasion units. To some degree, they mildly nerfed her survivability as well because she has an attack scaling barrier. She has a little bit less attack, but in practice, that's just going to be a few hundred effective HP. So that's what they went for nerfing. So honestly, I think everyone's overreacting. I think as long as she can kill the A-Ravis without proofs, nothing kills an A-Ravi on proof really. And A-Razes and stuff pretty easily. I don't think she's that over nerfed. I think the nerfs honestly made sense to me. I think if anything, they could have kept the CR push on her S1. The attack reduction, guys, the reason for that was to reduce the impact of Uberius Tooth. That's why they did that. And that's why they're trying to increase the multis on this. They're trying to get rid of the obscene tick damage that makes her broken against everything. But did the nerfs go a little overboard? I mean, what are the nerfs? Attack minus 20%, CR push elimination, and, this thing gets a turn cooldown increase. I mean, maybe they could have dropped one of those, right? Maybe kept the CR push on her S3, kept the S3 cooldown the same. Fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm on the fence on this one, guys. Maybe a little bit overboard, but maybe not. I think a big not selling point, but a key factor for me will be what her new multis are. I think as long as her damage is buffed to the extent that her damage is the same as it is right now, I honestly feel like everyone's overreacting and she's still a perfectly usable unit. Because there's so many comments where it's less like, recall, this unit is literal trash now, completely useless. And I'm just like, dude, what are you talking about? She is not literal trash. If her damage is the same, without 15% CR push on her ass, she's still going to be goddamn good, okay? She's still going to be good. That's my thoughts on it. I don't want this video to be too long, so let's go into the special mentions. So, people bought Uberius Tooth and maxed it, and now she's nerfed. Guys, Uberius Tooth is still going to be best in slot on her, and still a good artifact to use overall. So, yeah, it's fine. Just keep the Uberius Tooth. I mean, there's nothing they could really do about that, right? So, yeah, it sucks a little bit if you did it specifically for HWAYOUNG. It's still going to be BIS on HWAYOUNG, and I think HWAYOUNG's still going to be usable. And if she's not, she's going to get buffed or the EE treatment after. 2, people who built Yulha are mad because she's not going to be on Guild Wars defense anymore. And, I mean, that's just, honestly, I don't agree with this, guys. I mean, like, Yulha sucked anyway in RTA against HWAYOUNG. And you didn't really have to invest a whole lot into Yulha to make her work against HWAYOUNG. So if you, like, plus 15'd her, you were on crack anyway. I mean, the gear is not an investment. Just take it off. Really, all you really needed to do was 6-star her and maybe like 4 awaken her or something. So I think that's really, I don't know, whatever. I mean, yeah, maybe they'll give you a recall for Yulha too, but I doubt it. I don't know. Like, that happens all the time as meta shift. I have like 10 plus 15 heroes that were used. Like, Alencia used to be one of them until recently. Kayron, stuff like that. Silverblade Aramentha. That's just part of the game. Heroes get rotated out of the meta. And the last one, the timing was bad. Yeah, a little bit, but so I think people are saying the timing was bad in the sense that they just released a selector and a lot of people picked HWAYOUNG with it and then they nerfed her. Yeah, that was a little bit off, but at the same time, like, what are they going to do then? If they want to nerf HWAYOUNG, how long are they supposed to wait? Or should they have done it before, but maybe they weren't ready before? So it's kind of hard. Like, I agree that the timing was bad, but I'd rather them just do it. I'm a pull off the Band-Aid as quick as possible kind of guy. Like, if you wait for the right moment, you're going to be waiting forever. Just get it over with. So, like, yeah, the timing wasn't great, but it is what it is. So overall, I think that's the final video I'll do on this HWAYOUNG controversy. I don't think there's anything more for me to say, but let's sum it up real quick. Number one, I think she was incredibly busted and really deserved the nerfs. And honestly, I think anyone saying that the nerfs are inappropriate probably just isn't playing the game very much, or is just being like super elitist and pretending that they're really good or something. Because I don't get it. We saw the E7WC. People thought she was good and oppressive. Wasn't that long ago. Meta hasn't changed super tremendously since then. So, well, actually now I don't know because of the balance patch, but before that. So, yeah, I mean, I think she clearly deserved the nerfs, and that's undeniable, at least to me. If you guys have problems about how they did it or the fact that they didn't do her in a wave with other heroes, that's debatable, because I do agree that other heroes are also oppressive, not so much as her, but could definitely be toned down. I think Ravi, by far the best example of that. You know, she's way too tanky, and the revive thing with how much damage it does, it's just toxic. I agree. So hopefully we'll see if they could do anything about that, or if they're going to like be too scared of pissing off whales that they won't do anything, because that would be unfortunate. Time will tell. But basically, those are my thoughts. And, you know, I hope you guys understand my point of view more than just the fact that I loathed and said I'm super happy about it. And let's be clear, I'm still happy about it. Die in the fire, HWAYOUNG.